38 new cases, 21 in southwest Sydney, with authorities again today honing in on 3 local government areas.
What we're trying to highlight is areas where we're particularly calling out for testing. The Fairfield local government area, places like Bosley Park, Smithfield, Bankstown, Roselands.
The federal government will be bringing forward an additional 300,000 extra doses, and particularly to see those targeted, especially in southwestern Sydney.
Individuals called out for their behaviour.
We've been at this 18 months now. We know what compliance is.
Please do not go and visit others.
Avoid visiting family and friends. That is how the virus is spreading.
Redefine the sense of family. The family unit is the household.
These are multicultural communities. Just 24% of Fairfield and 34% of Canterbury Bankstown speak English at home. And the government's worried the COVID-safe messaging isn't getting through.
I just think sometimes as we go about, we haven't communicated effectively.
Tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock, I will deploy an additional more than 100 police across southwest metropolitan Sydney.
These communities are more vulnerable. More than 20% of households in Fairfield and Liverpool have 5 or more people, as opposed to less than 4% in the city of Sydney. And those households are more likely to face monetary pressure and be in insecure jobs where they can't work from home.
If you rely on that day-to-day job to be able to feed your families, pay the bills and put food on the table, it's tough. It's really tough.
But the extra attention and even the threats...
Where we do not get that compliance, we will enforce. Be very clear.
...have made many in the community feel they're being unfairly targeted.
This is a Fairfield problem, and I won't be taking anyone pointing fingers at Fairfield. It doesn't matter where you live. If you're in the eastern suburbs or the western suburbs, we're all in this together.
If I've offended anybody, I apologise.
Do not think you are immune if you are in other parts of Greater Sydney.
I just think that we have to stop blaming any communities, east, south, west, whatever. It's actually the leadership.
Well, Bankstown Mayor Carl Utzford joins us now. Carl, what's the feeling out there in Bankstown tonight?
Well, we're really worried. Obviously, the cases have gone up today, and we're worried about increases and spikes in the COVID cases over the next few days. People are really concerned with those numbers, and we're reiterating the message to stay home, follow the public health orders, and make sure that you stay safe. I think it's really important that we do that, and I really hope that everyone's got the message, because the message is being reinforced.
It certainly is being reinforced, sometimes in some quite full-on language. I'm interested in your response to the way the police spoke, particularly later in the afternoon today, talking about sending extra numbers in there and really speaking in a very law and order sort of a way. Did that help?
No, I don't think it did. I mean, they're patrolling the entire city of Sydney, Greater Sydney, not just Canterbury Bankstown or southwest Sydney. The government came out hard yesterday, focusing on our 3 local government areas, including Canterbury Bankstown. I think it was a bit of a finger point, and that wasn't necessary. And I noticed that they stepped back a bit. They walked away from that a bit at today's press conference with the Premier. And I'm really happy about that, because I think it's important. But unfortunately, the messaging gets confusing, and our people get disillusioned when there's a fear of over-policing that is going to be around our community and our streets over the next few days. I just don't know why the language keeps changing, and I really do hope that government really works on getting the messaging right over the next little while. We shouldn't be blamed for this. I think, the vaccine rollout and hotel quarantine are the reasons why this variant has spread across Sydney.
Carl, I grew up out in Cabramatta, so my heart is really bleeding for the community out there. And I understand that English as a second language is at a really high number there. So do you think the communication with non-English speaking communities has been adequate?
Well, they've had 18 months. We've had this pandemic on our shores for 18 months. It's, I think the messaging is right, and they've got the material. I think they've just had a bit of a problem in getting it out there to the right people. And I've said this before. I mean, community leaders are locked down at home. Our mosques, our churches, our places of worship are locked down. We're a very faith-based community out here, and it's very hard for people to hear those messages from their faith-based leaders. And I think it's important that when that is occurring, that the government needs to double down on their efforts and make sure that people are getting the right message.
All right, thanks so much for speaking with us, Carl.
Thank you.
I don't doubt that all the authorities here they've got a really hard job and they're doing the best they can. But what amazes me about this is the way that history is repeating and that lessons don't seem to have been learned. So it reminds me so much of the situation in Melbourne last year where you had people from low-income areas with insecure work that couldn't take time off to get tested or whatever it was. And it was only after the outbreak reached those points where people went, oh, my God, that's a bit of a problem. And especially then with multicultural communities, communication with the Victorian government was poor at it. And then it became a problem. And now the New South Wales government, I think we're seeing, is poor at it. And I don't quite understand why lessons aren't being learnt. Is it just too hard, or are they not watching to see what the lessons are? I'm genuinely confused by this.
Well, I think everybody in Sydney is confused as well, Waleed. I mean, I think Assistant Commissioner Tony Cook summed it up there where he said, it's been 18 months, we know what compliance looks like. But right from the beginning of this, Gladys Berejiklian, she was refusing to call it a lockdown, and that was the most important moment of communication. We all knew and still know that the Delta variant is so much more transmissible. And she never adopted a stance that made it look like she was taking this even more seriously than Dan Andrews was, because she had every reason to. She had the Prime Minister at the same time saying Gladys is the gold standard of how you do these sorts of lockdowns. And so Sydney is kind of being confused, and it's no surprise to anybody that the numbers are the way they are.
It's a word I'm hearing a lot from my Sydney friends, confused.
Yeah, that's
whether they're confused or there's a sense of confusion in the community.
Yeah, which has to be fixed because communication is so important in a context like this.
Absolutely.
From expert opinions to in-depth analysis and reporting, the Project YouTube brings you the biggest stories from Australia and around the globe. Hit the subscribe button now for news delivered straight to your feed.